Zibbidi bop, oh bippity bop, beat up, dee da dee bop, beep bop. Welcome to Why Not Show Love vlog. On today's episode, we're going to be addressing trauma buddies. What is a trauma buddy? A trauma buddy is a person who manifests in our life based on unresolved traumas within our own self. What the fuck does that mean? So for example, as always, I gotta get real personal and say my shit, right? Because here's the trauma. I would rather talk about shit abstractly, like a scientist, and say, oh, trauma's this. But no, I gotta go into my shit. If I don't go into my shit, it doesn't connect as much, right? So why don't I want to talk about myself, right? So let me give an example of a little bit of a trauma, right? When I was going to school as a kid, my family's from the West Indies and Guyana. My pops particularly demanded academic excellence from me, right? So just to go into that simply, one example of a not so crazy trauma, because I got some crazy ones, but that trauma was anytime I brought home a report card, a grade, a test, he wanted to see the top mark. So if I got a B, he'd be like, why didn't you get an A? If I got an A, he'd be like, why didn't you get the extra credit? You know, he would always, from his own point of view and his own traumas, he would tell me to do better. But what that led to me is feeling that I'm not enough, right? I didn't fucking know that behavior and growing up in that shit would make me feel like I'm not enough. So later on, when I started doing my own thing, I always felt like what I did was not enough. You might have heard this mentioned as imposter syndrome, right? Always feeling that no matter what you accomplish is never enough. So how does that show up in trauma buddies? When I started doing my own thing with art and music, I would always meet people in the studio. Nah, that take isn't good enough. Nah, that riff wasn't good enough. Nah, that beat wasn't good enough. And that doubt and fear and insecurity that was in me created a magnetic energy that allowed other people who are facing the same thing to basically show me a version of myself through them. So I would attract a lot of people that had high self-doubt because I was unaware. So how do you deal with this? The first step was because I kept meeting all these people who I thought were brilliant but had low self-esteem, low confidence, and not that much belief in themselves. I had to say, holy shit, the universe is sending me a message that I don't really believe in myself as much as I need to. So after I stopped pointing the finger at other people, I looked in. And I had to really, really take that time to stop blaming myself, stop putting myself down, stop guilting myself, and stop shaming myself. This is years of work. When I really started addressing that, I started to manifest people in my life that had more confidence. And they then in turn started showing me I can be a more confident person. Now, I'm not saying that you need to cut off every trauma buddy, because the truth is they're just a reflection. But when you start healing from your trauma, when you start addressing your shit with issues and really, really allowing those feelings that we bury deep in our subconscious mind to come to our consciousness and come to the surface, you stop fucking around and you really do the work you need to in yourself. These people can no longer manifest in your cipher. Either if they were a trauma buddy, they're gonna raise up in confidence with you, or they're gonna filter themselves out of your lives. You know that you've had relationships with friends. Maybe they were a friend, your best friend for 2 years, and then all of a sudden y'all part ways. That's most likely because one or both of you have made an energetic shift where you are no longer energetically congruent. The other thing I want to point on this is basically trying to fill the void. So for me, if I was dealing with low self-confidence, trust issues, sometimes I fill that void, not with the person, but like for me it was with weed, substances and doing all those things. I would really, really just try to find a way to fill the void. But guess what happens when you try to fill that void of trauma? It has a unquenchable appetite. No matter how much you do, no matter how much weed you smoke, or drug you do, or person who's trying to fill the void, your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, nothing ever fills the void. So that you think that nothing ever is going to change, but it's just that we are caught up in an energetic cycle. So, what are some trauma buddies that you've manifested in my life? I've had some for low self-esteem. I've had trauma buddies where I try to hide from the world with substances. I've had trauma buddies where we're blaming the system for everything. And then we gather together because guess what? Misery fucking loves company. And unless you want to get out of that miserable shit, you gotta dive deep into it. You gotta dive into it, you gotta face it. So I want you to hit us up in the comments. What are some times where you noticed energetic patterns that were creating trauma buddies? What were your trauma buddies based on? And if you were able to move past some of them through healing, what were some of the ways you've been able to heal? We appreciate you. This right here is a healing process for me, and we're out. Thank you for checking out the Why Not Show Love vlog. Woo.